Hi everyone, my name's Amanda. Welcome to my channel. I'm just going to be doing a quick overview of our small garden that we have this year. I got my toddler and my baby to sleep, so it's time to show you the garden. So we have these two raised beds that my husband built and put in. This one has the trellising for the tomatoes and the green beans and peas. And we have a few more seed packets to get in the ground if I can tonight. It looks like it's going to rain, which is good, but I do water the seeds in anyways. But I'll go ahead and start off here with the first bed with the trellising. So you can see we have a ton of radishes growing up right here. They're almost finished, and I plan to pickle those, so I need to get those out of the ground soon. We didn't start anything from seed ourselves other than what we direct sowed this year. So all the tomatoes and peppers and onions, squash, things like that. I'll go through everything that we did buy, pretty much everything we bought from our local nursery this year because we have a newborn and because we moved. So with this first bed, we have radishes, onions, threw some marigolds in there for the tomatoes. I have tomatillos growing. Right here I have a couple of those plants. And then along the outsides we did pepper plants. So I have the hot peppers over here, jalapenos and chili peppers. The chilies are already growing pretty nicely right there. So right along here is just the hot peppers on this side, and then on the other outer edge I did the bell peppers. And we didn't get to do the companion planting this year that we would usually like to do because we only have the two raised beds. We kind of had to smash everything that we could into these small spaces. So all of the tomato plants are in the center here to grow up. They're finally getting tall enough to where I can sort of start weaving them through the cattle panels. This is how we did grow our tomatoes the past few years, was trellising them. Actually, most of the ones that I bought this year ended up being determinate, but usually I do mostly indeterminate so that they'll continuously grow and produce fruit. So in this bed with the peppers, the onions, the radishes, and the tomatoes, we've just been kind of putting things where we can to get the most out of this bed. So along here we have lots of tomatoes. They're actually looking pretty good. We've got some flowers growing in there, trying to get them to pollinate. You can just tap them a little bit. And then again, we have some radishes growing. And then over here we have the green beans, and I'm super excited about these this year because I do our typical green, like Kentucky Wonder pole bean, but last year while I was at the farmer's market selling our meat, the produce girl next to me who I'm friends with, she sold Dragon's Breath beans, and they're super delicious, especially raw. I actually bought a whole bag to make for dinner that night and ended up eating them through market and on the drive home, and that's when I knew I needed to grow those in my garden this year. So I'm super excited about that. We try to harvest as much as we can from what we grow and either freeze it or can it. So I'm super excited, and I hope that we get plenty from that. The green beans and everything are still looking a little bit small, but they're actually growing pretty quickly because I just got the seeds in the ground about 2 weeks ago. So they're looking pretty good. And then I just plan to do some more radishes along the side here. Along the other side, I tried to plant some carrots, but they haven't been germinating very well this year. We did have a pretty cold spring, so I don't know if that's what's delaying it, but we're doing what we can. And I plan to get a ton more out here while I can to try to get some more out of the season. So we are actually a small organic meat farm. We raise pigs, chickens, and turkeys on a very small scale. Before we moved, I would say we probably did about 800 to 1,000 chickens every year throughout the summer, usually from like late April through October, and then we would do Thanksgiving turkeys. We do them all organically, and then this year we weren't sure if we were gonna do pigs or not. We skipped doing chickens so far this year. We do plan on doing a small batch at the end of the year, mostly for ourselves and family and friends and things like that. And then we are getting some turkeys soon, because we do want to do a couple turkeys just for some of our regulars that we had before that really enjoyed them, and for ourselves and family and friends. So with the pumpkin patch, I wanted to go ahead and start those now so that they would be ready in time for giving to the pigs, because they absolutely love the pumpkins. And then we will keep some of it for ourselves and freeze it. So onto the third bed is just an area that Eli tilled up, and that's our squash area. Beyond that, there's one you can't really see right here. It's where he put sunflower seeds, just because we absolutely love to grow sunflowers. He's always grown them, and we think they're truly beautiful. And then beyond that, he just tilled that up. One last plot for whenever we do garlic this fall. So we already have our garlic seed from last year that we didn't use all of, so I'm hoping that we could use that this year. I'm not too sure. We actually planted some last year before we sold our house, so they're reaping the benefits from that, but that's okay. That's what happens when you finally find your dream home. We figured we were going to lose that garlic, but I'd rather be here than where we were previously. So we have our squash plants and cucumber plants that aren't actually doing too great. They're growing okay. I need to come in here and majorly weed this, but like they're itty bitty. There's some little babies on there, but I'm not actually too worried because I have a ton from a couple years ago, so I'm not really too worried about it. I did plant a watermelon plant, and it's looking really sad. I won't even show it to you right now because it's so itty bitty. And then I have a couple more of those cucumber plants, and then right here I have a little yellow squash plant with a couple already growing. Across from that there's another one, and then I have some zucchini plants growing. We actually put a little bit too much nitrogen on this on these plants this year. I won't say whose fault that was, but I'll go ahead and show these to you. We use our chicken manure. I do a manure tea usually, and I'll put that on there, but it was done a little bit differently this year, so we have a little bit of some damage to these, but they're actually looking really amazing. They were itty bitty before, and they're actually popping up really good. One of my little garden pals is over here. And then behind me, the rest of this is going to be pumpkins. And then over here, I definitely need to weed the edges. We need to put the ends on these beds. My husband found a big pile of these old wood posts in the back of the property when we first bought this house, so he used that to build the raised beds. We did a lasagna method. We put down cardboard boxes, you can sort of see on the outside of these beds right here, and we do plan to mulch eventually, but we're not worried about the grass right now. It's not a big deal. But we did do like a lasagna method where we layered a few different things: wood chips, grass clippings, and compost and topsoil. So it's actually looking pretty good, and I haven't had too much issue with weeds growing. I've only had to weed a teeny tiny bit compared to what I typically do. So this is our second raised bed. We did this end with strawberries. We just bought one strawberry flat, and then I've been picking off the flowers here and there to try to get them to focus on the roots so that they can come back next year even stronger. So I threw a bunch of marigolds in there also, just for some color and pollinators, things like that. I need to pull off some of these flowers. I've been trying to keep on top of that, but with a toddler and a newborn, it's been a little tough. Back over to this first bed. I know some of our onions are super teeny tiny. These are actually looking really good compared to the other ones that have died off. And then we did get just a couple of different varieties of salad mixes. I do plan to plant some more seeds to grow some more before the end of the season. I was worried that these were going to bolt this last week because it was in the 80s and up to almost the 90s, but they're actually looking really beautiful, and we've been eating off of these for the past few days. I do like to try to grow kale for salads. sauteing for meals, and I do like to try to throw them to our chickens, but this batch of chickens that we have been super picky compared to the last batches of chickens that we've had. And then this is actually pretty new. We're doing broccoli and Brussels sprouts, and those are usually like something that you would want to start earlier in the season when it's cooler, which would have been totally perfect for this season because it was super cool, but we got them later, and we've actually never grown these two before, so we're trying them out just to see if we like it and just to see kind of how they grow in general. So it's mostly just a trial and error type of thing. The cabbages are exploding. They were super tiny and now they're just massive, and they're starting to form their heads, so we'll see kind of how they do. It's supposed to get really hot again, so I'm really hoping that they survive that. You might have seen there's some onions growing here and there. Again, we tried to shove things as much as we could in these beds to get the most out of them. And then pretty much from here on, we did just a few herbs to get it started. We did throw some mint in, and yes, I do know that you want to get mint by itself typically, otherwise it will spread and just take over everything. Let me get some of these weeds out while I see them. But you know, we just wanted to get some mint in there just for this summer, and then we can move it whenever. And then we have some oregano, thyme, sage, dill, which is going crazy from this heat wave that we had last week. And I put some on a salad yesterday. It was delicious. Some rosemary growing, which I absolutely love. We did throw some more radishes down in this bed, but they haven't actually done that great on this side. There's one right there growing. Just a couple over here. My poor cilantro bolted from the heat wave last week and just completely went to seed. And that's fine. We can just wait for this to dry and get the coriander from it and use that for spices. I have some parsley over on that side, which hasn't really grown or done too much. It's grown a little bit, but I'm not too worried about it. Some more radishes that I just threw in the middle, and they're doing pretty good. I've got a bunch of basil plants, these three right here, and then there's like a larger basil on that side, which it's already going to seed. I already pulled some flowers off of these ones just to try to save it, but they're starting to flower again. And then there was no room to put the chives that we've had for years growing in this little pot. It usually looks amazing, but right now it's looking pretty rough. And then these Egyptian walking onions that one of egg customers gave to me, which are awesome. They're so beautiful. I need to get these planted. She actually gave me these last summer, 2021, and these ones have already died this year. But they have these little seed pods that form at the top, and then they just drop in the soil and they come back next year. They just taste like an onion. They're really beautiful, but I just need to get them in the soil soon. I really want to find a place where I can keep them permanently, so I haven't found that yet because we are just overloaded with stuff in this bed. I wanted to give them a little bit of a bigger area, so hopefully once we get a new bed next year, or just figure out what we plan to do for this garden, then I can get those in the ground. So that concludes the end of the first garden tour of the 2022 season. We haven't really harvested too much from this yet, mostly just the salad greens and radishes, things like that. But we're super, super eager to soon.